Hello, everyone. This is Paul J. Ryan here with designer, founder, and creative director of JTR Luxe, James Thomas Ryan. And you're here for our part 2 podcast with the designer himself. How are you, James?
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. This is so exciting to have our podcast series. This is part 2.
Yes, it is. Now, today we're going to be talking about the recent Haute Couture shows. Can you please tell us your take on what was seen?
Well, as many of our members know, the Haute Couture shows are this really exclusive group of designers that show in Paris, and all the clothes are handmade.
Right.
Just to give it a little background, and just very few of the designers that are left doing Haute Couture are actually showing. And so it was a small season, but nonetheless, it was really interesting. And some of my favorite shows I'll be telling you about.
All right. Well, before we get to that, for the listeners who don't know, what exactly is Haute Couture?
Well, Haute Couture translates to high fashion, and it's French for handmade clothes and very special one-of-a-kind custom garments that are fitted to one person.
So these are very special and very limited around the world.
Yeah, and there are collectors around the world, but often you don't know who they are because they collect things privately.
So you wouldn't see these garments in stores such as H&M or Urban Outfitters?
No, and it's actually the total opposite spectrum of H&M. Instead of fast fashion, it is kind of like a slow-cooked meal, and it really, the designers and their staff take their time, and it's sort of a lost art form, so I think it's good that we're talking about it.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that you do have certain favorite designers which specialize in haute couture. Could you please mention those designers and speak a little bit about them?
Okay, sure. Well, every July when the haute couture start for the summer, it's really an exciting time, and then they also show again in January. So I pay special close attention to when they're happening because they are so rare. One of my favorite shows this season was definitely Christian Dior by John Galliano.
Okay.
And it was really based on the idea of flowers and that the women become these sort of floral creatures wearing these beautiful garments in beautiful colors, and the skirts sort of explode in nice big poofs, but of course, there's still the classic new look.
Very interesting. Could you explain what exactly the new look is?
Well, the new look is a nipped-in waist with the peplum, and it was created by Monsieur Christian Dior in the late 1940s, and it is still relevant today.
Okay, so it's been around for quite a while, and it's become sort of a base for designers.
Yeah, and it's the signature of the House of Christian Dior, even knowing almost everyone does it.
Okay, I see. Were there any other notable designers that you might want to mention from this season?
Yeah, this season I really took notice of Giorgio Armani Privé, and it was because it had this wearable luxury that I could see a lot of, jet-setting women and celebrities wearing, but it wasn't obvious couture. It was
More
just
subtle?
very wearable, subtle, and beautiful colors, beautiful palette.
Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I was happily surprised by Valentino this season, which, as you may know, that Valentino retired a few years ago, and it's been taken over by two people in his staff. And they're doing a really nice job. A lot of short kind of baby doll dresses with bows and beautiful fabrications, and it just really flowed this season, and it just really worked for me.
All right. Are there any houses that showed haute couture this season that you wouldn't normally expect to see, or are they usually done by the same houses?
Well, that's a good question because some designers actually who used to show couture don't show it anymore. For instance, the House of Versace. On the other hand, there are custom-made Versace gowns for clients, but it's not haute couture. It's atelier, it's custom made. And there are some new designers coming in like Alexis Mabel, who shows in Paris, and he's quite young and he has a very kind of edgy young look that he's bringing a new energy to couture. It's very exciting.
Would you say that that's something that might reinvent the haute couture?
Yeah, I think that when new people come along, it just gives it this new kind of infusion of youth. And there has been a little bit of a gap left in the couture because of people like Christian Lacroix, who are no longer in business, unfortunately. And I do miss seeing his collections each season.
Yeah, it's too bad. Now, let's move on to some of the other designers, such as Givenchy. Could you talk a little bit about their collection?
Yes, well, Givenchy is being designed now by Riccardo Tisci, and I'm really loving what he's doing with the House of Givenchy. It's kind of got this rock and roll, glamorous edge to it, and people like Madonna are wearing Givenchy, and really people who have such a great style. However, this season, Givenchy did not do a traditional runway show, but they did show the collection to the press, and it was quite impressive because you did get to see the clothes really up close, and they were very embroidered, and each piece was so one of a kind, and I really think you'll be seeing a lot of those on the red carpet.
And was there any reason why they decided not to go for a show this season?
To be honest, I think that it has a lot to do with the current economic situation that's going around the world, and it affects these companies as well, and they have to scale back in some way.
So it takes a lot of money to produce these shows.
It takes an exorbitant amount of money, and as a matter of fact, a lot of these companies actually lose money with the shows, but they are so important in terms of promoting the brand, promoting the perfumes. It really gets their image and their name out there.
Oh, well, of course. So, what about the house that most people might be familiar with? The House of Chanel.
Well, Paul, we saved the best for last because Chanel really was a spectacular show. And as you know, it is designed by Karl Lagerfeld, who's one of our favorite designers. And it's just amazing that he just is so continuously designing these collections that are so beautiful and cohesive. And this season was no different.
Interesting. It certainly wasn't. Are there any other designers that you would like to mention that did it for you this season?
Well, I think between Christian Dior, Chanel, and Valentino, I think that really did it for me. But last but let's not forget least to mention Martin Margiela, Maison Martin Margiela. They show an artisanal collection every season, and even knowing that Martin Margiela is no longer with his house, his staff is still doing a wonderful job in his name, and they are one-of-a-kind pieces that people collect, and it's not seen on traditional shows, but people who are very involved in fashion like we are and our listeners, we really love to follow those collections too.
Well, it seems that Haute Couture definitely offers a lot to us as artists, as individuals, and we thank you for being here with us and sharing your take on this season.
Yeah, and thank you so much, and thank you, Paul, for being such a wonderful interviewer. And to all of our listeners, we really appreciate it. We like to mix it up and we like to talk about different things. And we also want to encourage you to go to the JTR Luxe page, and we welcome you to post any questions that you may have for future podcasts relating to style and beauty. And we'll do our best to answer any of your questions. And thanks so much.
Again, thank you all for tuning in. Please stay tuned for our next podcast, which we have available free exclusively on YouTube. And we look forward to hearing from you and joining us next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bonsoir.